the procedure. And I mean, it's not so much, what I've been doing is not so much a matter of what you constantly repeat, which is the allow or make to arise the feelings of safety, security, satisfaction, and success, and then of course the sort of yippee of success comes on. It's not so much that; it's going through the deep breathing, and the deep breathing starts to feel good, and the body starts to relax. This was actually what I was doing on this occasion, was just saying, I'll relax the body. I won't even breathe. I'll just slump. I'll go sort of, huh. And after I slump for a bit, well, obviously I have to start breathing. And of course, so we're now taking deep breaths from the slumped position and starting, and then it just sort of follows on. Or it did just follow on. In fact, I've been doing it this morning before I talked to you, and it just follows on.
That's the whole point. It just follows on is a very stylized way of saying it, but that fits exactly. It's just one new moment after another. You just go with the flow. This new moment and this new moment, but we do so watching what's going on in the here now, rather than wasting these mind moments by thinking of something from the past. Now, the point is that yes, there is in the Buddhist traditions a stylized way of talking about that stuff in the Anapanasati Sutta. It's a very formal kind of thing, all right? Which would be, in fact, something like a 2,500-year-old symphony. Something like maybe the Beethoven's Ninth, including an Ode to Joy. Okay, so it's a very complicated musical kind of thing. But the point is that if the musician can play that piece of music from start to finish and know it well, then he can sit down at the piano and play. And he can play jazz, and he can play all kinds of simple music. He can sit there and bang those chords in a particular rhythm, and it sounds beautiful to that kind of ear. Okay, and so that's what popular music is. Popular music is actually much more, let us say, simple than it was in the old days.
Oh, yes. Indeed, I am. Well, you see, my wife is quite a lot younger than me, and is grew up, I suppose, in a time when people had music playing in their ears all the time, or pop music playing in their ears all the time. Of course, we didn't have. I mean, by the time the transistors came, transistor radios. I mean, I spent quite a lot of my adolescence trying to build radios, but the sort of tranny and the constant pop music wasn't happening then. And I mean, now to me, an awful lot of it is sort of.
You had to go to the record store to buy something.
That's the one. And you had to, but now it's all on the radio all the time, and it is rhythmic thumping with, in the foreground, people sort of hysterically yelping, practically, a lot of it. It's sort of just, yelping and thumping.
You're absolutely correct. It's not particularly sophisticated. But what I am saying in that regard is by being able to do that form, that very sophisticated movement, just like in the katas of, actually the style was Goju Rai.
Oh yeah.
And Goju, actually go means hard, and Ju means soft. And so the students actually train hard, and when they get very good at it, that's when they move into the soft. That they can. So the soft is the advanced thing, so that you could just disarm a person or let him fall on his face or whatever like that. But if he gets back up, you're going to go hard on him. And so they teach the hard part first and build that right into the muscles through repetition.
Yeah.
Okay, as well as strength building things like the horse stance and other things. But the point is that we're going to do that also with Anapanasati.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to grind that stuff in. We're going to get it going, and the results are not a beautiful movement like a twin kata, like the Tai Chi, but rather it's a beautiful song of one's life when one is integrated like that, because they've got all the movements down. An example of that, by the way, is Zen and the art of archery.
Yes.
Okay, to where the hitting of the target is not the point, but rather can they do it in a very stylized way so that they get that function down very, very soundly and can do that shot after shot after shot after shot. And then they train doing that while sitting on a wooden horse that his teammates are tussling around for him until he learns to be able to maneuver that wooden horse. And then they put him on a real pony, and now it's time to go. All right. But he has to get every movement down first with how to use that archery. The bow has to be held in a certain way. The arrows have to be done in a certain way. The drawing of the bow has to be done in a certain way. And basically is that when they bring up the bow across the eye level, and that's where we notch. And then we take the left hand out and stretch the bow down. And then we let go of the arrow. Now, in the Japanese, they do the fingers because you're not going to hold that bow. But in the Western tradition, they use either the two fingers, or nowadays they use a little device to let the bow go or let the string go, so that they can take it and hold it back a long time and get a really good aim, because hitting the target's the important thing in the Western mindset. But in the form that we're talking about, it's being able to do the procedure very, very fast and reload and get another shot off and reload and get another shot off over and over very, 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 very fast. But you have to do it through this little procedure.
Yes.
Okay, well, we've got a little
they make
procedure.
it extremely difficult on themselves.
Pardon?
They make it extremely difficult on themselves by doing it with the string up to the eye instead of as.
Well, you got to see what you're doing.
Where I mean, I've tried sort of ordinary archery a wee bit once upon a time, but the way the Zen archers do it, it looks extremely hard.
It's a training.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a training to go through. And the whole object ultimately is to be very, very fast, to get quick, to discharge, almost like good enough to be a machine gun.
Well, it always was. It always was. It was the English archers in Crécy or Poitiers or someplace that could get off 6 to a crossbowman, was it 12? They could fire very rapidly, and they were using the Western method.
But exactly the same training is going on. That in fact they have dug up skeletons of the English bowmen of the day to find that the arms are longer than usual, that the big barrel of the chest and the arm bones are. I mean, it's just because they start them off as kids. And it actually deforms the body to make it really much stronger, but that still is a little bit at a time, another drop of water in the bucket, over and over and over again, the training. And that's the practice also of Anapanasati. Once we get to the point that we understand that it's a repetition of training that has nothing to do with getting it right. It's getting it to be exactly the same over and over and over again. But that's the important thing, rather than getting it in detailed right, but the practice of doing it over and over and over again, because it can be done. And there's also times where we get it wrong and then practice wrongly over and over again, which means that we have to undo it and redo it correctly, which is basically what happens with people in meditation. That's what they're doing. Some of them are getting pretty good at it. In the Mahasi method, that's why they have a dark night of the soul. It's because they've gotten really good at doing, let us say, 2/3 or a half of what needs to be done. So, which means then that picking up those extra couple of habits can be done lickety split for them, because they've already got half the job done when they practice Anapanasati, because they've already got to wake up and remember to look, and that's what they do. They wake up and remember to look, and then they look, and pretty soon all they're finding is a bunch of crap. And then it's no time. All I see is dissolution, despair, and the falling apart. And that's certainly a part of the teaching of the Buddha, which he goes the dukkha part. But he doesn't teach just dukkha. He teaches dukkha nirodha. We have to make a change, and the time to make it is right then and there. Okay, so seeing what's going on, see the dukkha, and then make a change in the mind over and over and over again. And that's what you were telling me about, that you were doing naturally, that you woke up tired and grumpy, and then you looked at that and knew that you were tired and grumpy. And then you made a change, and the new change was, well, never mind, I'm all right anyway.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
Pretty
Okay,
much.
so, yeah, and the next thing you know, you're on top of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So look at that. That's the Anapanasati, the waking up and taking a look and making a change, and then congratulating yourself that you were actually able to talk yourself out of feeling tired and old and gray.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. Look at that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Now that's insight for you, right there.
That's what an insight is.
That's what insight is that you can talk yourself out of feeling old and tired and gray. Right then and there.
Yeah, well, this is interesting because, of course, as you know, I followed a lot of what Brasington said and what he got from.
I know you read his book.
What's her face? Yeah, and
have you ever done a retreat with him?
I mean, I have never done a retreat with anyone, nor do I intend to. But go on.
No, that's where I go. You go.
Yeah. So he does all this jhana stuff, and then he sort of more or less says, "Now do some insight," and you're thinking, well, what sort of insights am I supposed to be having?
The insights that you get from being able to investigate, but the whole point then is that if you are in jhana, the only thing that you can investigate is the wholesome, because that's all you've got left. You have already removed the unwholesome through, by the way, ta-da, insight into the nature of suffering in that thing. And so you get rid of it, just like you got rid of your old and gray and tired. And you says, enough of that. That's just how it is, and I'll be okay without it or with it. All right. So, in that regard, you came out of the hindrance of old and tired and grumpy. That was the word. Okay. That was the hindrance. Yeah. And you said, never mind. You kind of accept it, which is the right way to do it. Start again.
Yeah.
And you decided I can go even though I feel tired and grumpy. That's okay. I can still do it. I can go. That's that positive attitude. That's the Samma Sankappa. So there you've got it. And that's what we practice over and over again till it becomes natural. And you just talked about now doing all of that in a natural way. That you remove the hindrance. Then you felt good about removing the
Right.
hindrance.
Hang on. Breaking up.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you remembered to look. You looked and you saw that this was a hindrance, and then you did something about it. And after you did something about it, you
Uh-huh.
felt good.
Yeah.
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 That's the Eightfold Noble Path that we practice. And I would say that Anapanasati is the method the Buddha teaches because it works for everybody. But I would say
Mm-hmm.
that if you apply those four things in any frame of reference, whatever frame of reference you would want to choose, whether it is Zen or Vajrayana or the Mahasi or maybe even the Catholic Church or maybe the baptismal at the Christian Church. But if somebody can do that repetitive over and over and over again of waking up, remembering to take a look, and then making a positive change, and then congratulating themselves for doing it, they're practicing the Eightfold Noble Path.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And the other four items on the Eightfold
Right. So
Noble
you,
Path, go ahead.
sorry?
I said, go ahead. You were talking.
Oh, no, I wasn't. I probably just grunted as I was moving the screen in order to look at what I've written down about the actual eight points of the Eightfold Noble Path.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, yeah. So carry on with what you were saying, please.
All right. I'm introducing them basically in the way that they're introduced in Majjhima Nikaya Sutta number 117. Now, they're introduced in a
Yeah,
variety of different places. And it kind of
yeah,
looks like, in fact, that there's two different paths. There's the ordinary path of the getting started. It's sort of like the getting to the bus stop path, and then the noble getting actually on the bus path, the noble path. And the one that I teach is the noble path. Okay,
mm-hmm.
getting to the point of calling me, that's up to you. But and Bhikkhu Buddhadasa and Achan Po um, kind of both want, especially Achan Po made specifically clear that we're only going to teach the noble path here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. So in the ordinary path, it's Sila Samadhi Panya,
Yeah, yeah,
right? But once we have Panya, now we're ready for the noble path. And so with that Panya, we do Panya, Samadhi, Sila. Okay, so the Panya that we're talking about are these four items, basically of waking up, looking, which is the Panya, looking at it and making a change and congratulating ourselves. And when those four things get in order and incorrectly, so that we kind of feel like a lion, you feel like the boss of your life. You feel like the
uh-huh.
emperor that's on top of your own pile of dirt. You're on top of the world. All right. That feeling of on top of the world, or that feeling of completion, is then leads to the right unification of mind that is called samadhi, that is translated in most English into the concentrated mind. This has not got nothing to do with concentration, and everything to do with organization and unification, so that you
Uh-huh.
become whole. Now, that wholeness, then, the right unification of mind, means that you don't want anything, that you're good. You're just fine. You're satisfied, successfully satisfied, okay? Wealthily satisfied, so that you got more money than you need. You're ready to
Sure.
find something good to do with it, to help other people, right? That kind of attitude. So, with that attitude, we don't want anything. We're not going to go harm anybody to get it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If we don't want anything, we're not going to go steal it.
Yeah.
If we don't want anything, we're probably not going to tell lies about it, whether we got it or not, or how we got it. So that means then that Sila comes last because it's the final
Yes.
result
Yes.
of the mind that's correct and organized.
Yes.
Yes, that's it. That's the Eightfold Noble Path.
Uh-huh.
And it leads in the seven factors of enlightenment, those very things, repetitive or unremitting, that we get into the flow, we get into the rhythm. This is what stream entry means. This is that we're in time, we're in tune. And what is the timing? It's waking up. You're waking up and look. Waking up and look and change. Waking up and look and change and congratulating ourselves over and over and over again. This is the path. All right. And the result of that path is arrows launched in the direction of that target and allow the arrow to take its own flight and own course. When wherever it lands, I don't give a flying rip. I've launched the arrow correctly.
Well, that's like playing golf, isn't it?
Yeah. Right. Well, guess what? A lot of people, though, when they don't like where the ball went, they'll change their score.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, yes, golf is. I mean, I've never played much golf for various reasons to do with not being in the right place for it, I think. But
Actually, but that's one of the things, and not only that sport, but tennis is another, where you have a trainer to make sure that you've got the right form. And then they have to practice that form over and over and over again. For the tennis player, it's that backhand, because that's the one that's hard. And so they get in front of a ball machine and do backhands, one after another, until they train that arm to get those backhands. All right. The same thing is true with golf. In fact, how you swing and how you swing and how you swing, you've got a very correct and important form of holding the golf club in a certain way that intertwines the fingers, and you got to put it up in a certain place. I'm not a golfer, never played it, but I know enough about it to know that you can't learn to play golf if you don't learn the form, the kata.
yeah.
Baseball
Oh,
has it
yes.
too.
Oh, yes. That is absolutely right. Does it? Yeah. Of course, as a British person, I know absolutely nothing whatsoever about baseball. Well, I know I've heard sort of talk about it. I've seen movies and people. Yeah.
But you're getting the point, though, that it has to do with training.
Oh, yeah,
To be able to, yes, that's the point, that it's training that we have to do it over and over and over again. And then you can say then that your training is already now working because you caught one right out of thin air. I feel grumpy. I feel tired. I feel old. Then wait a minute. Yeah, that's how I feel, but that's okay. As opposed to, oh, that's how it is. Oh, poor me. Oh, I'm getting so old. Oh, poor me, which is what you would normally do. Get really grumpy. When you say you're grumpy, you want to prove it.
Absolutely. You could. Yes, I can do grumpy really well.
But here you caught it.
Yeah.
And you nurtured yourself. Oh, that's all right. I see the grumpy. Never mind.
Yes. Now, if you get into a state of piti and sukha, of course, then, as I understand it, according to the method, the Anapanasati Sutta, you're supposed to calm all that down and
don't go by those rules. Let's do things in order first. All right? You really do have to practice scales and chords before you do arpeggios. So let's get right back down to the basics of the form. Okay? Like you got to be able to correctly and repetitively pull an arrow out of a sheath and get that down and get that down and get that down. And then you have to repetitively take an arrow and notch it. Take an arrow and notch it. Take an arrow and notch it. Then you take the next repetitive stuff is to launch the left arm. The left arm goes out with the arrow because you need the strength on that thing to hold that arrow with the fingers just long enough to let it go, because this is a warfare machine. How fast can it's like a machine gun, but it has to be trained and trained and trained and trained and trained. And the same thing is done with Anapanasati.
Getting a lot of distortion.
Yes. Maybe I can turn my camera off and that will help. All right. So your image is still
frozen. The voice was very distorted. Yeah,
I understand that.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, hang on. Tell me. Where?
Never mind. It's a bandwidth. You can hear me now. I turned my video off.
I can hear you now, but
I've got my video turned off.
Yeah. Yes, I can see that. I can see that, but I'm not finding how to turn my sound off. My.
Okay, you just muted. Okay. Now the video is off.
I'm back again. I've got my video off, so now we're just doing voice. That's fine.
All right.
Yeah.
And that should be enough.
You're coming.
Mm-hmm. Basically, what I was talking about. All right. So basically, what I was talking about is the repetitive nature that we have to practice over and over again, whatever the skill is that we're learning. Whatever the skill is, it has to be practiced over and over and over again. And here we are, first starting three things to remember, to look at what you're doing and make an improvement of it. To change it from unwholesome to wholesome. And we do that over and over and over and over and over again until we get good enough at it to know that we're getting good at it. And that's where the Sammasankappa comes in. Mm-hmm. That's the real change of attitude. We had a little bit of change in attitude just by doing this. Because many people will just do it once or twice or maybe one retreat or whatever and walk out and say, oh, the hell with this, it don't work. Mm-hmm. But we have to practice it until it begins to work.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Well, it does work. Well, it does work. I know it works.
I know you know it works. You just talked about it. That's what this conversation is all about. Is that not only does it work, but you remembered in a very natural way for it to work, which is the exact place to practice in reality, that we have to get it done by the formal practice over and over and over again, and then they become natural. And here's the example of that, is that this was on Saturday Night Live, and they had a series of skits, I think, on several weeks. And they would have a guest that they were talking to, and while the guest was chattering or listening or whatever, someone off camera would throw a great big lightweight giant fish, and most of the women got hit right in the face with it. And then the last one that they had was a guy who was a football player, a Heisman Trophy winner, and somebody out of his field of vision threw that fish at him, and he grabbed it right out of the air with his right hand and didn't even change his face. He didn't look in that direction. He just grabbed it right out of the air. That's part of the training. And that's the example of the training that he had in football would then be allowing him to be, not just to fish, he probably could catch an arrow out of the air, just like a baseball player
Yeah.
can catch a baseball. If you get good at it
Yeah.
and get fast at it, and because baseballs are sometimes faster than the arrows. And you should be able to catch an arrow, just got a different technique. You got to catch it by the tail rather than the air.
Yeah,
You get the
don't
point.
catch me by the point.
Yeah, you get the point.
Yeah.
So that's the whole
I
point
do.
is
I do.
yeah, if we can do that in sports, then the top quality of the meditation crowd should be able to do that with their mind so that they can catch
Uh-huh.
those slings and arrows of outrageous fortune and duck right out of the way, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
what you did this morning or whenever.
Well.
That's the whole point is that you ducked that one. You didn't wind up feeling old and grumpy and tired. You wound up feeling really good because you went through the
Yep.
practice. But you did it in a kind of a natural way.
Uh-huh.
Aha.
Uh-huh.
But the skills were there. So congratulations, Gerry. This is an important point. Are you beginning to get yourself out in the world there and making a
Mm-hmm.
change right then and there?
Yeah, well, yes, I have that's not the only time I've done it because I've been able, I mean, on
Sure, it's not.
occasion,
This one was just one that was remarkable. But of course you're
yeah,
doing that. Of course you were.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
waking up to those and recognize them, because every time you wake up and recognize, hey, I just did it, that adds to that weight of confidence. Did it again.
yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah,
I can do this. Ah, ha, ha.
yeah, yep, good, good, well, right,
Yeah, that's it. That's how we practice, and we practice in seclusion and quiet so that we can build these skills. And then
mm-hmm.
out in the world, we can put those skills to use.
Yes,
And friendship and nurturing is the quality on both sides of that. That when we are practicing in seclusion, we do it with nurturing, kindness, like you said, that you just accepted that you were old and grumpy and tired.
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
nurturing part right there. The acceptance. It's okay. Yeah, today I feel old and grumpy and tired, and it's okay.
mm-hmm.
And I can get up and get out of here anyway. I can go. I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's the change. Look at that. This fits exactly the teachings.
Good, good,
And now
good.
I'm going back and just doing a post-mortem for you because you had did all of that quite naturally, and guess how long it took? Not long.
Well, not very long at all. No, no. Yes, well, good. Thank you for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how long have we been ongoing now?
We've been going about
44,
33
40,
minutes.
44 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
45 minutes. Yeah, I see the clock.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but now going on, and you'll tell me that I'm getting ahead of myself, but going on in the sutta, um,
Which one?
the Anapanasati Sutta.
All right. Okay.
Um, Going on in that one, the you do the, or you are supposed to do the experience breathing, experience the piti, breathing, experience the sutta.
No, it doesn't say that. it says understanding the long breath, and understanding the long in breath, and understanding the long out breath. With the piti and sukha, thus one trains
Yes,
oneself.
yes, yes.
That's what it says in the sutras.
Yeah, but
It's,
then the next one is
that's why I
calm.
keep talking about uh, uh, the skill. The
Hmm.
skill, piti and sukha are a skill.
Sure, sure,
Yes. Hmm.
sure. But going on from them, you're supposed to calm the
It's
mind conditioner, right? That's what it says. Breathing.
and okay. What is specifically? We're talking about step 5 and 6. What
Yeah,
specifically is step 7, and what specifically is step 8?
yes.
What are they? I'm asking you a question. What
Well,
specifically is step
my
7?
specifically step seven is that you, I think it's, he trains himself, I'm trying to do this from memory, he trains himself um, breathing, breathing in, I fully understand the mind conditioner, is that it? And breathing out, I fully understand, or yes, understand the mind conditioner. I think it's something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the mind conditioner being the faculty of being able to bring on these states of piti and sukha. Presumably, and then after that, you're supposed to calm the mind conditioner. If
Mm-hmm.
I will
Oh,
find it somewhere.
I've got it. I've got it here. I'll
you've
read
got
it
it,
to you.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I shall breathe in,
Uh-huh.
experiencing the mental condition, the mental formations. He trains thus. And I shall breathe out, experiencing the mental formations.
Ah,
He trains thus. Then I shall breathe in, tranquilizing the mental formations. He trains thus. I shall breathe out, tranquilizing the mental formations. Okay, so in and breathing and out breathing. Now, this is kind of repetitive. As you know, I'm into
uh-huh.
repetition. And here it is. Okay, so, and they do it with also the in breath and the out breath.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we keep going with it. That's what the whole Anapanasati Sutta is. That in fact that happens in every one. He trains thus. I shall breathe in, contemplating. That's a bad word for it. Impermanence. He trains thus. I shall breathe out, contemplating impermanence. That's 13,
Yeah,
which is
no.
right up the book. All right. So the point is that we can actually keep track of the breathing because the breathing is the rhythmic sati that brings us back to the present moment. But
Mm-hmm.
it gets kind of natural that you don't have to work at it, that it's just kind of there. And we kind of remember to just take another deep breath because it's repetition. Uh, um, I heard a new word today, and it escapes me. Uh, um, but it has the quality of it keeps. You've heard about a bad penny. It keeps showing back up.
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's what we have with sati. That's the training. It just keeps showing back up, and so we train that way to experiencing the mind, experiencing breathing out, experiencing the mind. Wait a minute, that's step 9. Let's go back and go back to 7 again. He
Yes, seven.
trains thus. I shall breathe in, experiencing mental formation. So let's go into mental formation for a moment.
Let's,
All right.
because I'm looking at a different translation, I think, from you. I'm looking at the one in Buddhadasa's book, which is the uh,
Okay.
mindfulness with breathing, and it says he trains himself thoroughly experiencing the mind conditioner, I shall breathe in. He trains himself thoroughly experiencing the mind conditioner, I shall breathe out.
Okay, so the word
tell me,
formation and conditioner is the same thing.
yeah,
That's,
so tell me,
pardon?
I was going to say, so tell me, you say mental formations, what specifically does that refer to?
Well, it's the same Pali word as the translation you have of mental conditioner.
Right.
Okay. What are the things that condition you mentally? How about having stubbed your toe in the middle of the night while going to the bathroom?
Well, feelings, pain in that case.
Oh, all right. Well, guess what? Feelings is right here. This is part of the Vedana. You know,
Yes.
that it's 16 steps, each broken into 4. So 5, 6, 7, 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. That's Vedana. 5, 6, 7, 8. This is how you feel.
Yes.
All right. So this is step 7. You got to experience how your mental conditioners, but the mental conditioning goes both ways. It's much more like a saloon doors, you know, from the old cowboy days. These doors swing both ways.
Yeah.
And it's quite natural for us to know this. We see this often. It's almost you would call common knowledge, except here in the suttas, it's in this fancy language that we don't know from 2,500 years ago. But you already know things like that. When you're sick, you feel bad.
Yes.
When the body is sick, we feel bad. When we have strong sensations, we don't like it and call it pain. And then we don't like it and we talk about, where can I get some medicine? Do you want to go to the hospital, honey?
Yeah.
You want to go get some pills from the pill pushers?
Yeah.
Okay. So that whole set of stuff like that, where here we go with, never mind, I can handle it without that stuff. I'll be okay.
Okay. Now, at this point, when you're going into thoroughly experiencing the mental formations or the mind conditioner, at this point, you have just got yourself into piti and sukha. So the only thing you're feeling is good. You're not experiencing at that stage, and there is no way for you to experience any bad feeling because you've
And when those pittis and sukhas momentarily lapse, what happened to them? Because it was the same mental formations or the same mental condition or category, but now it was influenced or conditioned in a different way, and out we pop.
Yes.
So we begin to understand that this goes both ways, that we can fall out of piti and sukha, and then we can get right back into it if we remember, because we already are beginning to learn how to do that. And how we do that is by being able to have the mental conditioner. We can talk ourselves into feeling good. That's exactly step 7 of Anapanasati, and I say that to students often. You've been talking yourself into feeling bad your whole life. Now it's time to talk yourself into feeling good. That's right there in step 7 of Anapanasati.
Yes, you are talking yourself into feeling good, but but how do you experience? I mean, let me put it this way: should you not at this stage be saying also, I know how to feel the conditioning of the mind by a bad experience? Like, for instance, I can, and I can't do this while I'm feeling piti and sukha, but I can, for instance, by thinking about my hands getting injured, I can produce an almost physical reaction to that. I can make myself feel, oh God, you know.
You just talked yourself into feeling bad, didn't you?
Well, no, I didn't. No, I didn't, because I'm examining this. I didn't actually feel anything there. I'm trying to explain a feeling that I'm not currently feeling. So I didn't feel it. I didn't talk myself into it. I'm just saying I can do, and I know I can.
I know you. Okay, I'm glad you stopped.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens on a regular basis for most ordinary people. And here you are waking up to that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So let's look at step 8. I shall, he trains thus. I
Yes.
shall breathe in, tranquilizing the mental formations. Okay. Now, the tranquilizing also has the quality of learning to control them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And often, in order to untie a knot, because we're talking about fetters here, in order to tie a knot, you have to loosen it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet, most of us people, we want to pull tight on it, hoping we can break it, to break free, rather than loosening it up.
Yep.
With that, we can also understand this is why we brighten or gladden the mind, because that teaches us how to control it, how to relax it. Basically, how to, like a trailer that's hitched to a truck,
Uh-huh.
a pickup truck. Okay, so the very things that you need to do is you need to loosen the space around the ball. And so you
Uh-huh.
jack the trailer up if you can, and then get enough grip on it so that you can then take the ball, a joint grasper, a
Yep.
loose, and then you can continue to pull the trailer off. All
Yep.
right, so that similar processes that we're doing here. So we can't go from criticizing the mind into tranquility directly.
Mm-hmm.
We have to come out of the tranquilizing mind into the nurturing mind, so that we no longer feel afraid and any of that kind of stuff, so that we can tranquilize that, like a lullaby that puts the baby to sleep. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be better for the baby to go to sleep than playing loud, hard rock.
Yes.
All right. So when the mind is playing loud, hard rock, it's hard for the mind to settle down and become tranquil. But if we could substitute the language from the hard rock into lullaby music, into nurturing, then
Mm-hmm.
we can, in fact, go to sleep or to rest. The word tranquilize is terrible. What does it actually say in Santa Clara's translation?
He trains himself, calming the mind conditioner. I shall breathe
Oh,
himself. I shall breathe
okay.
in. He trains
Calming.
himself, calming the mind conditioner. I shall breathe out.
All
Yeah.
right. Another way would be saying rest. Rest your brain. Rest your mind. Calming.
Yeah. And in a
Okay.
footnote, he says, be able to decrease the ability of the feelings to condition the mind. Decrease their conditioning of mind until there is nothing that is conditioning it. That is, there is no feeling, no perception, bracket sanya, and no thought, vitaka, at that time. So I don't know.
Again, Bhikkhu Buddhadasa is talking to the top of the class, just like I do.
Yeah.
And the beginners are not going to get it like that. Okay, so we got to go through high school first. That's way off into the wild blue yonder of learning completely to control things so that you can bring them to a rest. But you can only bring them to a rest. You can only bring them to a rest in a process or a skill development. All right. So here's an example of that. We have a horse, a wild stallion, out on the pasture, out on the range. You've heard my story, huh?
I've heard your story. You're getting him into a corral, and then you're getting him into a horse box.
Right, into a stall or into some place where you can really do some medical damage to the poor critter.
Yeah. And you also you also talk at some length. I've heard you about nurturing and calming your horse and speaking nicely to it and that kind of
as
thing,
opposed to jumping on his back and
jumping on his back and breaking it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so that's exactly what you got to do. In fact, in a way, that's exactly what you did do in our example
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
feeling grumpy and old and tired. And then you said, well, wait a minute, that's okay. That's nourishing. It's
Yeah,
okay.
I see.
All
Yeah,
right, it's all right. It's okay. I can get along without it. And then you start to feel good. You literally
mm-hmm.
talk yourself into feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you kind of forgot all about it, which is then back to the tranquility ultimately, is it didn't matter. You could have stayed grumpy all day long, but you woke up,
Mm-hmm.
you took a
Mm-hmm.
look, you felt really good about it, and then you
Mm-hmm.
let it go. The
Mm-hmm.
the calming it down is like it's not important anymore. But grumpiness would have been important for a long time until you wake up and say, "Oh, it's all right. I feel grumpy, and never mind." And so you calmed finally the mental conditioner.
I see. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it sounds, I mean, what with his
It sounds so highfalutin, and it's really simple, simple stuff. Watching how the mind works.
yes. Well, you see, I'm thinking I'm supposed to be having no feeling, no perception, and no thought, and you think, well, for God's sake, I mean,
Why
this is
would you want to do that? The Buddha says the first jhana is the path to enlightenment.
yeah,
Not getting yourself so out of it that you can't even drive your car. You can't get out of the road. You're going to get killed. There's
yeah, yeah.
suttas about that guy who got killed because he was doing that kind of stuff out
Oh
there
yes,
where the cows were.
the cow, yeah,
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 you got to be careful out there. You got to watch where you're going. You
yeah,
can't go out there in those kind of stages. That's
yeah.
not an advanced or ultimate place to go at all.
Mm, mm,
The ultimate place is that good enough space where you could just go out and have a ball everywhere you go. And you're
mm.
watching what's going on and you don't get into danger. You're really kind to the police no matter how stupid they are.
Yeah. Well, you don't try that with a Scottish policeman. I tell you, you would not wish to say to you would not wish to say to a policeman around here, um, uh, 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 "I'm so glad to see you, officer. I'm so glad to see you doing your job." Oh no,
why
that
why
policeman.
not? What would they do? What's the
What's he going
problem?
to do? He's going to say, you trying to kid me, Jimmy? You trying to be funny?" And he'll
Yeah,
come up.
he'll start like that.
He'll come over all aggressive with you.
I know.
You're being a
And
smart ass.
yes, but you're not being a smartass. You're being friendly. And once he figures out you're going to stay friendly, he'll calm down. He'll come down.
It's a bit like, yeah. Mm,
Yeah, you're not being aggressive. They're not picking. You're not actually. I hear what you're saying. You think that you would do it in a way that he thinks that you're taking the Mickey out of him.
I think he will think that automatically.
All right. Well, that means that you've got to find a way of doing it where he can hear you.
Yes, yes. But they're.
And I
I
don't.
mean,
I'm from the southern United States, and I know how to work with good old boys. There
yes,
may
I'm
be a
sure.
different technique that's needed
Yeah,
in
yeah,
North. I give you that one. I give
yeah.
you that one, Gerry.
So you
Yeah.
see, we have a story here. We have a story here that the teacher gives the class, tells the class to write about the police. What do you think of the police? So the class all writes different things, except we, Jimmy, who writes all police is bastards. So the teacher says this can't be right, and she rings up the police station and says, "Show my class how you operate," and so on. So the class goes down to the police station, and the policemen give all the class like fizzy drink, Coca-Cola, and cakes and things. And the teacher comes back and says to Jimmy, now write another essay on the police. And Jimmy writes, all police is cunning bastards.
Cunning bastards,
Thought that one. Yeah, they're trying to lull us into a sense of false security, you see, by giving us case. The boy knows the police better than that. And the policeman, if I were to speak to him as nicely as you say, would probably take the view that I was trying to be cunning with him and lull him into a false sense of security.
But I have no shirt on. I have no pistol, no place to hide. I have no weapons. Yeah. I'm completely undressed. I have no hair to hide anything. So and I'm an old man. So it works. In fact, we don't even have to bother with the cops in Thailand. They never bother anybody.
Yes. Well, that's actually what I was in Italy having the restaurant, the restaurateur says to me after the meal, he says, do you want some of this liqueur, you see, this grappa? So I said, no, I can't drink that because I'm going to drive the car home and I've already had some wine and I don't want to be picked up for being drunk, being over the limit of alcohol on a breathalyzer. And he said to me, nah, the police aren't going to bother an old guy like you. It's the young ones they're after. So that's age has, I suppose, its benefits. Anyway, that's just a story. Listen,
the question though is can you stay in a good mood while the cops go through theirs? Can you stay in a good mood while your wife goes through her series of feelings?
Well,
can we keep our cool?
Well, that's the whole object. The whole object of the training is to keep your cool, isn't it?
In a way, yeah. But before we talked just a few minutes ago, you thought that the object was not just to stay cool, but to go stone dead.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying this is what Santikaro expects of me, or whatever, or that's what he's telling me to do, and I don't know how to do that.
Okay, well, guess what? You don't have to do it, but it might happen to you when you get cool.
Yeah, I suppose. All
right, so just cool off. Just the whole point is, can you get cool and then maintain that cool?
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Well, that's it. Yeah. Can you just stay cool? Can you remember that you can, in fact, cool off? You can see the heat and douse it with water and just stay cool. That's really the whole thing. That's what Nirvana means. Just chill, baby, chill.
Yes, it's all, yes.
And the reason that there is no chill is because of friction. Things are rubbing together. Like my ideas of reality and reality, they rub up each other very hot.
Yep. I know.
And when I stop rubbing, or when my reality is as close to real reality as it can be, there's no friction.
Yeah, I can see that also in theory. The difficulty is that retaining the coolness at the point of contact, isn't it?
Exactly. And that maintaining the cool at the point of contact means that you're not hot with feelings. Not hot with the feelings.
Yeah.
Because we can choose. If we can choose to feel really good, then we can choose to be very easy. This is why there is that sequence of the first jhana, with the right, correct thoughts over and over again, lead to the second jhana, which is oriented towards piti, towards how good can you feel, and then we let that mellow out into the third jhana, which is just the easygoing sukha, and then we let that mellow out into the state that you're talking about, where there's really nothing at all much, but we don't live our lives in that state. It just happens we can get that cool.
Yeah,
And then when we come back to the first jhana, hey man, that's cool enough. Wow, it's a pleasant air conditioner. You don't have to go stone cold. But you can, because you know how to do it.
Yep. Good.
And you can.
Good. I think
There is an end of it. We don't want to stay at that end. We just want to know how far into the mind can we go. And the answer to that is that when we disconnect perception from consciousness, then all we've got left is consciousness, except now there's no way to experience the consciousness without any perception at all, and it's like shutting the lights out. That's that state that you've probably heard of. Neither perception or non-perception, as well as the word nothing. Well, that's the state you're talking about. It's just one of the states of, which is basically the end of perception, is also the end of feelings.
Yes,
so the lights are out.
They all seem to reckon that you have to do that at some point.
No, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. Here you are with all your rules. We're talking about a map. Just because I give you a map doesn't mean you've got to go see every God's green acre. Good grief. This is a map of the mind with no specifically directions other than the Buddha talks about the first jhana. That is the only goal, really, is to get yourself, because from time to time you actually are going to fall into feeling such a really wonderful state. Second jhana is a natural occurrence.
Sure. But what I'm saying is that so often you read in stuff put out by Western Buddhists and so on.
I know. I agree with you 100% that's part of the failure of Western Buddhism, is because of that kind of thing right there you're talking about.
Although these are all people who have been trained in the East that are writing this stuff.
That doesn't mean they understand what they're saying, and doesn't mean that the teacher who taught them in a foreign language understands the English words that he's using, and so there's a disconnect. It's called lost in translation. And I knew the Santikaro back then. I don't want to get into that part of it. But you are correct. But Santikaro's a lot older now. I think that he needs a redo, and he probably would do a do-over and do it much more correctly. But he hadn't even known Bhikkhu Buddhadasa but just a couple of years when he wrote that. His thing was that he was really good in Thai language. But a lot of the stuff he translated the same way that you would get out of reading the suttas in English.
Right.
Okay, that's why he uses the word concocting or concoction, to where others, they call it formations. And what Sankaras really are is much more like a pile, or perhaps even closer, a sewer system. But certainly not a library, a cataloged library. It's not a cataloged library. It is a city dump. And we're likely to find something sticky in every step we take in that mind of ours. But they use words that make it difficult to understand.
Right.
I know you want to go. Why don't we finish now? Things are good.
Good. Well, thank you very much for that. That's been good.
Yeah, it's been long too. We've covered quite a lot of territory too.
Yeah.
But you have wanted to go over step 7 and 8 over and over and over again. So this is an opportunity we took today for you to understand that there's one more point to that. And that is that the body conditions the feelings, and the feelings condition the mind, and the mind conditions the feelings, and the feelings condition the body.
I know.
Okay. Here's an example. Two people are climbing up a mountain, and one of them, like they're almost being chased. And one of them stops. He can't go any further, and he starts to heave, and his partner turns around and says, "You can do this." And the guy says, "Yeah, I can." And he gets up and he trudges on. Okay. What happened was that the body says, "No, I can't go any further," and the mind bought into it. And then his friend came and says, "You can do it." He heard that in the mind, and now the mind is conditioning the body, so now the body can get up and go again. There's your sequence right there.
Yeah, yeah. Good. Okay.
So I hope you got that. That way that's clear, because it happens all the time. You condition yourself. This the whole point was that you were able to condition yourself, and you eventually calm down.
Yep.
You can do it. Congratulations, Gerry. Congratulations. You can do it.
I can. Okay. Well, thanks a lot for that. Okay.
Flattery will get me everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see you later.
You will see me later. Good. I look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Excellent. You're a good friend.
Okay. Cheers. Bye-bye.